welcome back to another episode of the Film La Femme Podcast. We are here today. We're not just voices now, we're heads now. I'm Shelby Haggerton, and with me co-hosting today is Dr. Mike Weitz from the Wayne State College Film School. And then today we are actually have our first guest on the show, Miss Caitlyn Grace. Everybody welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So we're so happy to have you on. This is fantastic.
And Caitlyn's new.
Caitlyn is new.
Caitlyn's kind of new to the tri-state area.
So I'm a total noob.
Yeah, we just met Caitlyn recently. I don't know, maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, Caitlyn is actually going to be in, she's starring in my film Between the Lines as Charlotte. So we're pretty excited about that. We're going to start principal here pretty soon. We just had our first table read not too long ago and she did great. So yeah, we're really excited to have her on board.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm so stoked for Between the Lines and the collaboration we have coming in Sioux Falls. And it's been a very warm welcome here in the Midwest. I appreciate it.
So Caitlyn, I know you are from California and I'm not sure whereabouts.
So actually, I am a Michigander, born and bred, but I was both teaching and performing and continuing to audition both theatrically and in stunts in Los Angeles. I was teaching intimacy and violence at the Stella Adler Acting Academy. And I had just begun I had a contract with the Wow Women of Wrestling to pro wrestle on the Access channel. So I was getting my kicks and having a ball until the pandemic hit. And then, other opportunities opened up and my husband and I pursued some things going here in Sioux Falls, this regenerative agriculture program. And there was a very nascent movement culture starting up. And we both just felt called to have a hand in this community. We felt a lot of kindred spirits and a lot of kindred collaborations that were possible here. So we're really enthused to be back in the Midwest and a kind of grounding here for the first time. I've traveled extensively internationally and I've toured all around the US, but looking to kind of make a home here and looking forward to it.
That's so neat.
I think one of the things was, so I know South Dakota's film community is just kind of starting to get off the ground. I know that you went to one of the film meetups. We've got another one Thursday. So I was just kind of curious. I mean, maybe what you thought about our I don't know. I don't want to say starting film community because there's some people who've been doing some
it's been around for a while, but I think we're kind of all coming together now finally.
Yeah, really mobilizing.
I think that's exactly what I've observed is that you actually have deep pockets of talent and experience here that's just hanging out. I think the time is ripe for that sort of established crew to bring in a lot of the new blood and start some collaborations and start mixing it up. It feels ripe with potential, I gotta say.
I think there's a lot of good projects starting in that area now. It's cool. Caitlyn, I know we were kind of talking a little bit earlier. Could you kind of go over your education and training a little bit?
Oh boy, yes. I thought we were keeping this to a short episode, Mike. So I came up as a theater baby. I started in musical theater and community theater, and I started as Maria in Sound of Music and Rosie in Bye Bye Birdie at my preparatory school. I went on and I did get a 4-year degree in performance. And then I really had a taste to get out and adventure, and I came across the United Stuntmen's Association out in Seattle, Washington. So I went and trained there. I got my utility stunt certification. And then I started auditioning for live stunt shows. Went around, I actually got cast in the world's largest live stunt show in Guangzhou, China. It was called Countdown to Ruin. It was so much fun, fire and whips and high falls and water and precision driving, everything you want. And that was my first real contract, and got a taste for the industry. And I was like, oh yeah, this is where I want to pay my dues. I could see myself working up in this way for a long time. So I really got bit by the fight bug there, came back and pursued my weapons training with the Society of American Fight Directors. So I'm currently an advanced actor combatant, and also firearms certified, and pursuing my CT with them. So I'll be training and offering skills proficiency workshops and working with other teachers and fight masters to improve my skills in the classroom and on stage. And a lot of that has translated to film work too. So that has given me a lot of access to independent filmmakers and other creatives. So I started pivoting when I lived in Atlanta, coming back from that international stunt show. And I actually auditioned for Marvel and got cast as Nebula in their Guardians of the Galaxy show, Marvel Universe Live. And that let me tour with stage and film combatants all over the US, getting involved with martial arts and parkour and other higher stunts. And it let me tour the US and pick a new home, which is why I chose LA, because it was just brimming with opportunity and collaborators. And that city just has the hum, which really attracted me. And it was a dream place of collaboration. There was someone to work with and improve your skills, and always something new to learn. And now I think I'm coming full circle to kind of hone all the skills that I've acquired and develop some directing skills and technical skills, kind of getting an eye behind the camera. But yeah, that kind of is the sweet, short, speed version of training and background.
I know I don't mean to dominate a lot of this, but because I know this is the Shelby show, but the one thing I was interested in is there's always the talk about formal education. You've had a formal education. I'm obviously run a film school. Shelby is at the Emerson School of Film in Boston. I know she and I are big believers in formal education. You know, I always look at the very top people in the industry, and guess what? They're formally educated. So I'm just kind of interested in your thoughts on formal education for actors, for producers, directors. Just what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there are some incredibly advanced and intelligent teachers in academia and certifiers that just have expertise and gold knowledge dripping from their lips. I also think we're in an incredible era of open source creativity and tools. We're living in the era of smartphones and YouTube and social media platforms. So I just think that the conditions are ripe for any artist, no matter what. There is an opportunity for you. There's no excuse not to be working on something right now, because you have all the tools in your pocket for free at the library. I think it's really, really valuable to collaborate with the people who you have access to. And I think it's invaluable to do that with one another in an open access setting. I think there are gifts and gems beyond those white halls of academia. And if you can afford them, go, get you hence, and take advantage of what you can. But I would say you'll find what to pursue in a more advanced level by doing the work where you are and who you're with, and as cheaply as possible in the immediate future. Do it right now. Do the work now, and you'll find what to pursue from a higher level later.
I would agree with that.
Totally agree.
Shelps?
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of wanted to. So that transition from LA to South Dakota, you know, that's pretty big. That's pretty intense. I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit about like kind of the availability of roles and what you've seen around here.
Yeah. That was actually, it's been really interesting. So I sort of went being a theater and film baby, like had those big wide eyes going out to the big city, like just trying to make it, ready to hustle, ready to sweat, ready to just make dreams happen, make them come true. And what I really learned in the city was that environment is a test of the industry, not the craft. So you go to school, or you practice in the real world, and you develop your craft and these skills and the ability to do what you want to do and communicate the emotions that you want the audience to feel. And then you go and find out that the whole job of it has nothing to do with the craft. And in fact, it's very technical, and it's maintaining databases, and it's also very human, and maintaining relationships and connecting and having that network to collaborate with. Network's a 4-letter word in every industry, but it is lifeblood. We are an industry of people, of persons, and telling human stories. So yes, I'm getting off track here, but.
Well, and I think one of the things that both Shelby and I have really encountered, she's obviously working on Between the Lines right now, and I'm working on the Cross, which we kind of joke is like Little Women with the Ku Klux Klan, but I think
it's not a good joke, but it's
not a good joke, but it's actually very accurate. But I think when we look at that, especially actors and women especially, are really looking for challenging, dramatic roles.
And deeper roles.
Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota. And I mean this in the kindest way, but we see a lot of zombie movies. We see a lot of slasher movies. We see a lot of women as victims in movies.
Yeah. We need to kind of push back against that women as victims, or even the women as kind of the slutty killers. Because that's not what we need to be seeing either.
Stereotypes we don't need to feed. And it's not to say that the cities don't also have their fair share of bikini wearing, no liners, right?
Yeah.
You need to decide if you're in this for a paycheck or if you're trying to make art. Are you making a statement, or are you buying your groceries? And those are both important things. You need both. Your soul needs to be fed and your belly needs to be fed. So there's a choice. And I will say that I spent 2 years going through those and turning down a lot of cheap paychecks. And I've come here and I've landed a commercial and a feature, and I've been given the opportunity to just come in and teach professional prep workshops at the local theaters and with other institutions. There's an openness here where you have that approachability. It is so open source and connected and dependent on each other, right? That's a small town. You don't get to just write off and blacklist everybody who doesn't meet your standards here. You gotta wake up and see the neighbors again.
Yeah.
And show up to church on the same Sunday,
And I would definitely agree with that. I mean, no one understands, I think, and sometimes, people, I think partially because I teach film and Shelby's she's at a top 5. We sometimes get this thing. It's like, well, Mike and Shelby, they're film snobs. But I mean, I think one of the things is that I really understand. I've got a buddy who works for Lucasfilm. I've got a buddy who works for Marvel. I mean, I understand that, no one needs that economic machine more than the independent filmmaker. We only get to make our independent films because of that economic machine that happens. So, I mean, Scarlett Johansson does Black Widow, so she can basically get no paycheck to do Marriage Story and get nominated for the Academy Award. And we understand that there is entertainment and there's art, and sometimes there's that rare piece that is entertainment and art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think too. I mean, especially I don't want to be a devil's advocate in this situation too much, but I mean, I think we get into that thing. Sometimes I worry about the Black Widow type characters, the fighting toy character of here is the sexy combatant. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What is your thought on the sexy combatant?
Especially as somebody who's been in stunts, has done the action roles.
Yes. I will say, let's see, let's not bite the hand that feeds me, but but I do an awful lot of pushback, right? You know, I talk to the costume department. I'm like, what about this awesome hoodie? Oh my gosh, how many stunt pads can I keep in here? And they're like, are you sure? We really like the bikini. I'm like, yeah, of course you do. You know, sex is always going to sell. That will always be the case. I think again, it comes down to the stories you want to tell and the roles you want to have. And I do a lot of somatic work, a lot of body embodied work. I also teach that to actors, because I don't want to take on a lot of victimhood, and I don't want to take on a stereotype or being a slut or whatever it is. I don't want to be in a box. I don't fit in your box. Don't put me in there. So I'm constantly filtering my roles to tell the story that I want my body to live in, that, you know, I want my mom to watch me playing. And that does sacrifice paychecks, because those roles are plentiful. They're a stereotype and an algorithm for a reason. They pay. So I think it just comes down to making those valuations. What do you want to continually tell yourself you are and will be? I've designed a curriculum called Equip Your Character, specifically for actors, so that they can choose the type of roles that they want to embody, so that they start just becoming that out of practice. Because you will. I mean, that's acting. We ingrain habits in our psyche and in our physical selves.
Mhm.
So I think they're fun, and go for it sometimes, but don't live there if you don't want to get pegged there.
I think too, like in the fact that, especially like in Sioux Falls here, I think there's such a poise for growth. You know, I mean, I think there's an opportunity to kind of make an industry of our own. You know, one where those type of roles aren't the only roles. You know, where we're kind of growing, we're creating something new. It's very unique because, you know, I go to Emerson, so I'm speaking with people across the country at all times. You know, everybody's in different film communities, and they all are in much bigger spaces. And there isn't that like that place where they can push something or go a little bit different. Like, this is just where they need to be because this is what's available. And I think
Industry
here,
standard.
because yes, and I think here, because we're creating our own box, you know, we can push it, we can shape it how we want to. I think that it's a really good opportunity for us if we can push it how we want to make something great.
I really think that there's something in the air, that we're on the verge.
Yeah.
That, you know, the stories that are being told out there have been told before. And the voices that people have, we're in this beautiful time of representation in TV and film.
Mhm.
Holy cow. We're seeing all new stories and all new perspectives and all new faces on these screens. And a lot of what hasn't been told, but what is extremely relatable to the American and worldwide viewership is a Midwestern story.
Yeah.
We are the heartland. We have deep, meaningful experiences to share. And I think people are ready to hear them, especially after such an era of turmoil and hardship that we've all been through. And we need to pull together and bond. I think we have very community driven stories here.
Yes.
I think you're right. I mean, Shelby and I are kind of been pretty active, and I want to say active, but I mean, we've dealt with pretty much film communities all the way across Iowa, the Omaha Lincoln film community, some rural Nebraska, and now South Dakota. But I hadn't had a situation where I felt like there was a film community just ready to kind of bust loose. And I really kind of feel that way about the Sioux Falls area.
Yeah.
So I think now, especially, you know, we're going to meetings with 30 plus people in Sioux Falls, you know, and they're different people each time we go. And I've got to really, I think you're right though. I mean, and it's tough, you know, I mean, I'm in a place where I can work in all 3 states, and I've got a reason to work in all 3 states. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to make my film where I feel like I can make the best film. And I think too, something, and this goes back to the roles. I mean, we look at Shelby's film, and she had actors from Minnesota, across Nebraska, people from everywhere. I think you're right, though. I think people are really hungry for honest, strong, dramatic narrative.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we've spent the last 2 years inside, and cloistered away from each other. And I think that right now we're at a space where we want to feel like we're together. We want to all go to the cinema and experience the same story that we all know. We all feel this way. We all experience it. And I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing that push.
Yeah, I think it's the beauty of our medium. I think that is the gift of storytelling, that it has always brought us together and helped us overcome the challenges we're experiencing. I think we have a really golden opportunity to make a difference to people. I think that's all. I think that's what every storyteller wants to do is to impact the lives of their viewership. And I think we can do that here.
I think that brings us to a maybe kind of an interesting segue here. Earlier you talked about working in intimacy coordination. And I know we are all thrilled to death that there are intimacy coordinators. I know there's a couple in Iowa. You may be one of the few in South Dakota.
I just want to take the moment to clarify. I am not a certified intimacy coordinator.
Oh,
I am a certified actor combatant and fight instructor. And I was co-teaching with a certified intimacy instructor. So that was the intimacy and violence.
Well, that makes this question even more prevalent then, which is wonderful. So I want to go ahead and talk about that. I know there's been some things about Paul Verhoeven. He's made some things, of course. He made Basic Instinct and most recently Benedetta and a few other things like that. And I'm just kind of curious about some of your ideas about safe sets in intimacy. And maybe any experiences that you have had or any instructional experiences you have had about that, because or even maybe your thoughts about intimacy in cinema.
Yeah. So I think intimacy occupies a very similar space to the fight industry. They're both dealing with the upregulation of the autonomic nervous system. They're both dealing with extreme circumstances. Often aggressorship and victimhood. So there's power dynamics at play in both those realms. And I think the key to having a safe space is it needs to be a consent-based workplace. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to be fully informed, be very specific about what's expected of us, especially in those spaces. They need to be determined beforehand. There needs to be a nudity rider. There needs to be a sex scene rider. There needs to be agreements and paperwork, and also set choreography that dictates how the scene plays out. I think a non-safe space is one that says, go be sexy, go just do it. Anything that isn't specific, it's not the actor's job to make it up. And it's an actor's job to follow the script. Mm-hmm. It's an actor's job to follow the director, the choreographer into that space. And they offer safe containers for the work. And they offer the vocabulary to the performers to have the conversation, to have that vulnerability and honesty and set clear boundaries. I think that's what makes the space safe is giving it a container and giving the people who are within it the permission to step out of it. And it's always just about communication and collaboration. Be upfront, be forthright. Don't leave it hidden. Don't leave it till last minute. It's a priority.
Well, and that's even been something interesting. I was speaking with an actor, and they had auditioned for a role, and they got the role, and it was what they had read of the script was fine. It was great. It was well written, and then they get the full script, and there's this just a trigger warning for those who are listening. There was a part of it where it's just a sexual assault right in the middle of the script. None of that had been spoken about during the audition or during any of the process. You don't need the shock factor. You don't need it. It's not necessary to the script. And the thing is, I mean, if somebody's auditioning for this film and they get the role, they need to know that that's what they're going to be doing, because they need to make that decision before they even audition. That needs to be out in the casting notice if
in
so
the
choose to do
audition
that.
notice. 100%. Yeah, there should
Yeah.
never be a read for a role that has that included without the performer being notified.
Well,
It's unnecessary.
I think especially when we're doing non-union work and there's not the agent representing someone, because of course, I think we all know an agent's job is to protect the actor, one of their jobs, other than the financial aspect of that. And you don't have a trained person looking at that. And I literally remember when I was in my 20s, there was someone drafted on a paper plate, yes, you can shoot me in my underwear for your film. And so someone had a paper plate with the permission written on it. And it was just, and now I think back about that, and I did not direct or produce that film. I just knew the people who worked on it. To me, that's just so horrific to even think about that now, that something was legally, somebody's trying to create something legally binding on a paper plate. But
I mean, at least there was a paper plate. I mean, we know that in the early film days, they would surprise the actress. She wouldn't even know that she was about to be assaulted in any way, because they wanted it to look real.
Well,
I think we're dealing with some egregious consent-based negotiations.
But
well,
that was
that's
the thing in
that's
Psycho, right? In
that's
Psycho,
the
that
Tarantino
happened.
set though too. That's also the Tarantino set of, you have a woman on the ground and we're strangling her after she says, I don't want this scene. And I mean, you have his hand in that shot strangling her. Yeah. I mean, it's horrific. I mean, you need to take your actors into consideration. It's not just what looks good for the shot. It's what your actors are comfortable with.
The other thing is, actors as a whole, when you think about it in the environment of the industry, they are a vulnerable persons.
Yes.
Their whole job is to make themselves agreeable. Their whole job is to say, yes, how high? I will jump. So when you don't have a proper power dynamic or a hierarchy that can be interrupted, there's just very likely circumstances for abuse and for recurrence and for traumatization to happen again and again. And so I think just equipping that population to learn how to say no, and to say, my boundaries are here, and to say that is a professional interaction that is proper and right, and you have every right to enforce it. I'm just so grateful that we are in a post Me Too movement space that has the tools and the vocabulary. Growing up, even in my day, I mean, like 10 years back, we go to school and everyone teaches you craft and how to get into character. No one teaches you how to get out of character. Yes. No one teaches you how to take the trauma of that character out of your body and recover yourself. Yeah. I just think that's a pretty basic, if we teach them how to get in, we ought to teach them how to get back out.
I agree. Well, and I mean, I was on set once when I was still acting, and I mean, I had this scene where I was just crying and crying and crying on set, and trying to take yourself back out of that in a safe space. I mean, I was lucky enough. I was on Mike's set for that, and it was a safe space, and I felt comfortable. But I can't imagine if I would have been on an unsafe set to just try and get back out of that role. I mean, it'd be horrible, be horrific.
Yeah.
I think though, like having directed. And I've directed intimacy scenes, nudity on set and stuff. It's been many, many years, but I think thinking back, that was the most stressful day of principal, because, I mean, you wake up that morning thinking, okay, there's going to be intimacy today. And this was before intimacy coordinators. I mean, and it was, we always made sure that we had a woman on set that was robe ready. Everything. Are you comfortable? Are you okay? Are you all right? And it's stressful because, I mean, you want to get great performance, but also there's a degree of trust. I mean, between director and an actor. And if that covenant is broken at all, it really is difficult to recover from that. And I don't just mean reputation wise, but I mean rapport wise with the people that you're working with. It is very, very difficult. So, I mean, I don't want to say I had good situations doing that. I had the best possible working situations in that, because for me, it's never like, oh, this was a great shoot day. For me, it's just incredible. I'm sweating, scared, and I actually now avoid those kinds of situations now. But I mean, so I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that, about the director-actor relationship and intimacy?
Oh, I think it's crucial. I mean, that's a sacred bond, right? They are your trust and your link to reality, right? They get to say cut. I think that needs to be it's sacred, it's safe, and there has to be regulation and regimen, and also the purpose for an intimacy coordinator is to have an outlet so that you can address issues that don't need to go directly to the director. I think it's just good to have multiple options, because you also get into those situations where the performer is totally fine and like cool as a cucumber, like they're doing their job, they are prepared and professional, like this is what they have prepared themselves for, and you get the director that gives too much care, too much attention. Are you okay? Is everything okay? And that can get you psyched out, right? That can take you right back out of it. So just having the environment to confidently say my yes means yes and my no means no means we don't have to have this over worry, over concern, huge liability thing up in the air. It can be cut and dried. It can be easy. It should be cut and dried and clear and mapped out. I think intimacy and fights are some of our best movie magic. We fall into those love stories and we fall into those revenge stories because they are passionate and meaningful and we connect to them. So I think if they're right for your story, tell them, but do it right. Hire the person who can let that happen confidently and smoothly and professionally, and tell the story that you want to deliver.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think, I saw Benedetta, and Shelby hated it.
Yeah. It's like my least favorite movie of last year. I can't stand it.
But also too, I mean, if you look at that, too, there's a lot of intimacy in there. And then also too, there's a lot of questions about, is this ethical? Is it not ethical? But also, I think of like Cold War, the Powell Polakowski movie, and it has one of the most beautiful, intimate, so much intimacy, and it's so beautiful and it's so touching. And that movie would not be the same film without that deep sensual element to it.
Definitely.
So you can say the same thing of Never Look Away as well.
Yeah, and Never Look Away. I would agree. I mean,
countless films. Those are the moments we connect to, right? Like Titanic. We see them in the car and the handprint coming down. Like those are iconic moments that make our human spirit trill and say, I have felt that way, or I want to feel that way. Like that is our gift. That's what we get to share. And those moments are poignant and sweet and beautiful. And it takes a master craftsperson to make you feel that way, with two professionals who don't have to have any sort of real romance or chemistry.
Right.
Ta-da!
I think too, going off like with safe sets, just in general, I mean, we just had the horrible situation of Rust last summer. And I mean, it never should have happened. It never should have occurred.
Preventable.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
And I mean, the thing is like earlier that day, people were just drinking and shooting off guns for no reason. That never should have happened. There should have been, the full union set left because it was unsafe.
There were a number of regulations that were overlooked.
And we lost one of the up and coming female cinematographers in the industry. She was a graduate of AFI. Now think about that for a second. How many women cinematographers graduate from AFI?
Not
many. I mean, it's really rare. And she got killed that day. And it's such a tremendous loss to the industry in that. It's just, and I agree with you, Caitlin. It was preventable. It's just no way around it.
There are regulations currently in place. Had they been done the right way, there would be no tragedy. There were several points of backup that were ignored, and yeah, completely preventable. An utter shame for the whole industry, and especially for her family.
Terrible. Well, this got dark really fast.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
I know, but
maybe we should talk about future stuff for Caitlin, I guess.
Yeah, what do you got coming up, Caitlin, besides Between the Lines?
Yeah. So Between the Lines is this summer. Same time, I'm going to be heading down to Omaha. I'm teaching an armed skills proficiency test with Jacqueline Holloway and the Society of American Fight Directors. So that's going to be a ball. I also have a science fiction action short that just got completed. It is in post. It's getting its FX and all its shiny things added on. Nice. That looks to be greenlit for a feature to shoot
wow,
in the fall.
That's awesome.
Now, where in that and who's involved, or can you not say?
Los Angeles, Reed Films. That is Matt and Kathy McCabe. We shot the original in Big Bear, but it might have multiple locations in various deserts in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. But yes, coming down the line here, I'm pretty excited.
That's exciting.
I get to play the badass babe. What's really cool about her role is they actually wrote it in. A female has never had this highest rank of EMT Air Force personnel before, and they wrote her to be the very first one. So I am going to imaginarily portray the first female in this Air Force position, and then go save the world.
I like that.
That's awesome.
That sounds great.
That's really cool.
And then, of course, obviously you're working on Shelby's film, Between the Lines, which Principal starts in. When does Principal start?
July. We're shooting July through August, and then the film should be out hopefully this next fall.
I might show up.
Yeah, maybe.
Hope to see you there.
I'll be the one with the camera.
Like a super casual.
Me? Oh,
He'll only be fashionably late.
Yeah. So that's going to be really fun. So
yeah, we're going to have a ball.
You're talking about maybe producing or directing. Do you have any aspirations of either?
I do. I'm not going to say the name of a certain young adult fantasy series about a lady knight that I would very much like to turn into a feature. And I have a lot of stunt talent and horse riders that could make the era come to life. Nice. And I have a lot of blacksmiths and armorers and costumers who could make all of the armament and fantasy come about. So it's definitely a few years down the line, but we're adapting script and talking rights, and we'll at least do some fun pre-biz before we get it going. But
that sounds fantastic.
That's exciting.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah. So I don't know. Shelby, do you have anything else?
No, those are my main points. I'm so happy you're able to hop on tonight, Caitlin. This is great.
Thank you both for having me. I enjoy very few things more than just shooting the shit with film and collaborating, and I love sharing. This is something I'm super enthusiastic about. I think it's meaningful work. I think storytelling is at the heart of all of us, and I'm looking forward to getting to do it together.
It's going to be great. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
On.